Hello, everyone. Welcome to the season's opener. When I say the season's opener, we all know we're talking about European season. And a lot happened last weekend, and we should look at what happened, what nearly happened, what didn't happen. And also, we'll look at the Super Cups across Europe, and then we'll be looking at team strength as the Premiership enters its first week. And we'll be looking at transfers too, player movement and movement of some managers, how those things are likely to affect the leagues, in Europe, especially Premiership. Welcome to the best of football again. And as usual, OJ is on set. OJ, welcome to the program today.
Thank you very much, Dudu. Always nice being here. Can't wait for us to start.
Interested. And of course, Lejait, Jide is on set.
Yeah, it's good to be here. The European season starts. This is what we consider real football. Takes us for another 9 months.
Yeah, and I'm sure we will not have that kind of situation where one man said during the World Cup, told the wife, I was going to watch World Cup. And then the wife said, who is playing? And what did he say again?
No, I
The wife asked him where he was going. He said, I was going to watch World Cup.
Yeah.
So the wife now said, who is playing? He said, Man U and Chelsea.
He mentioned a club team for a World Cup competition.
And gave himself away. All right. We'll be talking about, let's begin with the Community Shield. That clearly was the encounter between Arsenal and Liverpool. Looked like a cracker that was going to open the league. But how did it now feel? Jide? What
Community Shield 2026, Arsenal, Man City. It was, well, Community Shields are very strange. You're not quite sure if it's a measure of intent or it's just something that follows preseason. Because typically the winners of the Community Shield don't win the league. If you are a fetish person, you think in that way. So maybe it's not.
Let Arsenal first. Yeah.
Maybe it's not a good thing that Arsenal won that Community Shield. But on the day, they were a better team, much sharper. It looks like their preseason is a little ahead of City's preseason. And they looked sharper, they looked more organized, and everybody seemed to know, even the new players, everybody seemed to know what they were supposed to do as compared to City, where you could sense that there are still a few gaps here and there. I'm not quite sure the coach knows what he's supposed to be doing with the team quite yet. Some players didn't look like they were fully up to speed yet. It was a proper demolition. 3-0. You very rarely find Community Shields that ends that way. So, well, we'll see if it bodes well for Arsenal for the rest of this.
OJ, on the strength of the players we saw on both sides, like they say, boxing pound for pound, I didn't really see anything wrong with the Man City lineup, but they were so easily destroyed by Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it again, they were complete. I mean, Haaland, Doku, Foden, Semenyo. I mean, it was a complete, on paper, I mean, well, you just give it to City. I mean, but the match had to be played and turned out, from the very first minute with Ricardo's goal, Arsenal proved they wanted something. It was something different. And, they worked for it and they ended. But sometimes you look at the lineup again and you ask yourself, did, as we say in Nigeria, were they complete?
Yeah. You will ask yourself, I mean, when after 20, 25 minutes, when they complete, but they were complete. Well,
it's football and clearly shows, I don't want to follow Jide's, I'm not an Arsenal fan. I'm just saying, well, sometimes it might also work the other way. So as far as Arsenal is concerned, they've picked the first silverware and hoping for more to come.
Okay, Jide, I'm a Chelsea fan. I was happy to see Maresca lose, but was it? Yes. I mean, I this is one time in all my 40 years plus of broadcasting where I've come out to pitch against somebody on account of my club. I thought that Maresca did a destruction of Chelsea. But let's look at what he did with Man City. Quality players, too many gaps here and there. Is he really the man for the job, or is it too early?
It's too early. It's too early. Although there are a few concerning signs that were seen in that game. Their defense is a bit of a problem as of today. They still have time. They play their first game on Saturday, I think, so they have time to get better. But the signs are there. It was so easy. If you look at the 3 goals Arsenal scored, it was ridiculously easy. It made the entire City defense look terrible. Made the keeper look like he didn't know what he was doing. So it was very easy. For Maresca, yeah, regardless of how you look at it, he didn't do very well with what he did with Chelsea. Because you can argue that Chelsea's season in 2025-2026 derailed the moment Maresca was tapped up by City. And the moment he knew he had the opportunity to become City's coach, he mentally switched off from the Chelsea job. And everything else fell apart from that point. And to an extent, he agreed. And to an extent, City also realized that they had done something maybe not wrong, but slightly unethical, which is why they quickly agreed to the compensation package that Chelsea requested of them. So we will see how Maresca does. But on the face of the game that was played on Sunday, City might struggle a little bit this season, except they get up to speed very quickly. I foresee a situation where in the first 4 to 5 weeks, they will not do very well. And then maybe they will. So the funny thing is, City typically is a team that picks up in the second half of the season. The first half of the season usually is not very good, even under Pep.
But those were towards the latter years.
Yeah, even last year they picked up. The only difference was they picked up very well last year. The only difference, apart from that one season where they finished 4th or 5th, the only difference was that Arsenal was stronger. Typically, teams lose points at critical points, and that's how City has won the league over the last few years. There's no I can't remember any season where City won the league miles apart from everybody. They pick up in the second half of the season where the other teams start to lag, and then they take over from there. So it may be they were able to do that this season, but on the face of what we saw on Sunday, I doubt.
OJ, the forward line of City was obliterated. Doku, Semenyo, and Haaland. They went to sleep.
Yeah, again, happens in football. And truth is, there's a new sheriff in town who will always be compared to whatever it is that he does with results with the team. Sadly, will be compared to to Pep. Took Pep a long time to start frustrating the big teams. Man U, Chelsea, and co. But in the case of again coming from their own history, where they were not a big team, they were just like Man U fans will say, the noisy neighbors. Now they're no longer the noisy neighbors. They've won titles even in in Europe, all over the place. So Maresca, whatever he does, will always be judged by that. He's got the same arsenal in terms of playing personnel, but then how he executes the result will now be the problem. They didn't do well. That's the truth, and that will hang over him. I don't know how he's going to come out of that.
Jide, well, my favorite player in Arsenal, Calafiori, plays beautiful football, but on the day, it was more of the goalkeeper's show. Raya was magic, and to think that he didn't really play in the World Cup and he's in such excellent shape so quickly, because yes, Scotland was 3-0, Man City was outplayed, but then it was also a day that Raya had 4-5 super saves.
Yeah, so David Raya is a very good goalkeeper. Arguably the best goalkeeper in Europe last season. I would have said it was a surprise that he was not Spain's number one. But, De La Fuente had showed over his time in Spain that he's a Unai Simon fan. And it is almost impossible for David Raya to, except maybe Simon is injured, it's almost impossible for David Raya to become Spain's number one. But that doesn't take anything away from his quality. Best goalkeeper in Spain in Champions League last season. Best goalkeeper, arguably in Europe last season. So, and he proved his mettle again. And like you said, despite the fact that City was outplayed, he still had to make some critical saves. Haaland was almost invisible in that game. But you have to remember that in the first half, he had two very good chances that maybe if he had scored, the game might have tilted it in the other direction. So all thanks to Raya, the game, they managed to keep a clean sheet. City was, like I said at the beginning of the show, City wasn't very sharp. If you look at the preseason games they played, you could tell that it's taking them a bit longer than other teams to get to match sharpness. But that's what preseason is for. You like to think that they will get there eventually. Doku got injured halfway into the game. Haaland was virtually invisible. And then the conversation came back into Haaland needs to get more into the game. He can't just be a finisher, especially now that they've lost a Rodri.
Yeah.
And they've lost a Bernardo Silva. Haaland might need to do a bit more than he was doing before because the guys who are, carrying the ball to him have left the team. So he might, and then of course, the Brian left last year. So City look like they might struggle a little bit this year. I really hope not for their own sake, but it's looking like they'll struggle a little bit.
Okay. Jide alluded to the fact that the new players in Arsenal fitted perfectly. Gomes on the Zolis on and the defensive midfielder who was in the midfield last season. I've forgotten his name now. He was on the bench. Zubimendi. Yeah, he was on the bench, and his replacement fitted so well. Is that a measure of how strong Arsenal is this season?
Sure. When you win the league, you want to strengthen your team, and you have to hope that you get the right personnel to strengthen the team. So it's a clear confirmation that he's brought in players who have not just come to sit down on the bench. I guess it wasn't. He wanted to see how Bruno and Co will perform in this game and see how to fit in, because he has to find a balance. He really has to find a balance so that nobody complains. And you don't bring a new player and keep him on the bench. You don't also drop those who won the title for you and put them on the bench because you have a new player. So overall, playing against a City team with that lineup, clearly, the new guys have shown that they've got quality to make Arsenal retain the title, because that's why they were brought in the first instance. Whatever it is, whatever deficiency they've noticed, they've brought in players, again, injury, fatigue, the December-January period too, players that will help the team get that balance, and they look like players that will really do the job for Arsenal.
Okay. Arsenal looking good for this season, and we'll talk more about the Premiership later in the game. Now, let's look at the UEFA Super Cup. Jide, was that a surprise too?
Not really. Everybody expected PSG to win. The surprise was that Aston Villa played as well as they did. They probably could have got something out of that game, and maybe should have got something out of the game.
I think so too.
They played really well. Really, really well. I was pleasantly surprised because you have to remember that they lost Morgan Rogers.
Tielemans.
Yuri Tielemans left. Oli Watkins did not play. They had a 17-year-old striker. Lucadinha left.
Wasteful on the 9th, but he looks sharp.
Well, for his age, for his age, you can give him leeway. But yeah, he looks like somebody that will be good. Lucadinha also left to PSG, so they lost three people that are mainstays in their team, or at least they were without three people that were mainstays in their team last season. So for them to have done as well as they did was a very pleasant surprise. But it also speaks to the quality that the coach Emery has. He's shown over time that he's a very good manager and he's very tactically aware. It was a good game. PSG's goal, I'm sure even PSG did not expect the quality of opposition they got on the day.
I think so.
Prior to that, the story was only Chelsea had beaten PSG in this new golden era that they have. And of course, I'm sure they didn't think Aston Villa was one of the teams that would give. But the Aston Villa gave them a lot of trouble on the day. And I'm sure they'll feel upset that they didn't get more out of that game.
Well, OJ, same PSG lost the French Super Cup to Lens.
Well, it's football. Sometimes in football you don't win everything. You win the ones you win, you take it. The ones you don't win, you pick it up. Even in the French Cup, they were beaten. I think it was a quarterfinal or so, beaten by FC Paris. So it's something you can't. You might have all a collection of stars, but there are games that you lose. Again, maybe the underrated Lens. Maybe Lens came really fighting to grab something. But credit to Lens, they fought a good fight, and they got it. They kept the goal, and it shows what they can also put up when the season begins. And for PSG to also know that they're not invincible after all, it's a lesson for them.
Okay, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll look at Premiership and the people or the teams that we expect to make the impact.
Best of football.
Well, if you're just joining us, this is the best of football. We want to look at 6 teams, big threats, or serious claims to top 6 and possibly the title. Let me begin with Jide. Tell us your expectations or what you think the chances of City is this season.
On current form, I would say City is number 2. Obviously, they came second last season, and based on what we've seen so far, pre-season, Charity Community Shield, I would still keep them at number 2 mainly because even without Pep, over the last 5-6 years, they've been, when they were not the best team in England, they were the second best. So with Arsenal, they've been among the 2 best teams in England for quite a while now. So if Arsenal is going to win the league, like most people tout them to, then I would think City is going to be second.
Even with the 3 departures, critical departures, Rodri, they don't have Pep, obviously,
Silva, yes.
but Bernardo Silva was a good service.
Yes,
player.
yes.
And of course,
So Pep is the biggest miss that City has. You can't have a coach that has stayed as long as Pep has done and not feel it when he leaves. Because everything City has done over the last 10 years is more or less revolved around Pep Guardiola. So definitely there will be, just like you usually have the new manager bounce when teams appoint new managers, there will be a hangover from Pep leaving Man City. I hope he doesn't take them below second, but somehow I think they will come good. But there's a caveat to that. It will be dependent on how the other teams fare. So pundits say top 4 for them this season will be Arsenal, particular order: Arsenal, City, Chelsea, and Manchester United. But, some other people say they see is Chelsea comes, if they don't win, they'll come second. Maybe because they have less workload in the course of the season, no European football, only have to concentrate. So I think what it is overall, I think City will still come second because Chelsea, apparently, in my own opinion, will need some settling down time. There's a bit if you saw the way they played in preseason, there's still some uncertainty around how they're going to set up. Whether Alonso wants to play a 3-man defense, which is what he deployed most of preseason, or if you refer to a 4-man defense and all of that. And then there's uncertainty whether Enzo will be there. If Enzo goes, would they buy Alex Scott or would they buy somebody else? City is still more settled than Chelsea as I speak to you today. So I suspect that City will still be able to finish it.
All right, OJ. I'll keep my feelings about City. Let the rest of you do the talking. Now, Arsenal, Saliba is out for 2 months or thereabout, but they still have strength in other areas. Are we going to see a coronation of Arsenal this season?
For me, I think it's clear that evidence and strength of the, it's like during election time, the incumbent, winning again. That's how I see it. Because of what they have. I mean, they still have the coach who's been there for a while and finally got his hand on the title. Then they've got players. Saliba is injured, but they'll miss him, but not if they are complaining or shouting that he's out. It was painful to see him at the World Cup, go down like that. But then they've got quality and all that we saw in that game against Man City preseason too. You even look at the bench. I mean, Rice, Zubimendi, Saka, Gyökeres, Merino, Eze. I mean, these were players who had to start from the bench in the Community Shield. But then overall, I mean, you look at the squad. I don't see anything beating Arsenal to the first position. They've got that strength, they've got the mental character, and they've got everything working for them. Arsenal will only lose the title if Arsenal fails to do what they know how to do best.
Okay, Jide, slot out Iraola in, and is it looking good for Liverpool?
Well, if you keep the coaching situation aside for a bit, they've lost Ibrahima Konate, they've lost Mohamed Salah. Based on current conversations, it's looking like they might lose Cody Gakpo as well. So if they do lose Gakpo, that'll be 3 really big first teamers that have left Liverpool. Then on top of that, then you have a new coach. A new coach who admittedly has done very well with Bournemouth. But as we've seen over the years, sometimes the status of the teams that you join as a coach, it impacts on how well you do because the pressure level is different. So I'm hoping for Iraola's sake that the pressure on Liverpool doesn't overwhelm him. If he does as well as he did in Bournemouth with lesser quality players, Liverpool have a very good shout as a contender for the Premier League. But these are things you will not know until the competition starts. And so far, they've not bought anybody of particular note. They are still struggling to get Bakola from PSG. We're not quite sure at this moment if that will work out. They've lost more than they brought into the club. So except they're able to remedy that in the next 2 weeks of the transfer window, Liverpool might have a bit of a tough season.
Okay, Liverpool may have a tough season, but in all honesty, I have my respects for Iraola because what he did with Bournemouth was quite phenomenal.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing we said of Maresca when he came. Somehow you just kind of feel that the pressure might have got a bit, or it might have, bothered him a little bit. That's the only worry I have for Iraola is that he doesn't let the pressure doesn't worry him. If the pressure doesn't worry him as much as he has done some other coaches, I'm sure he would be able to do well.
Okay, OJ, Man U finished well, I would say, last season. And I'm glad that they've kept Carrick. But, they're not as busy as one was expecting them to be in the transfer market. Their fullbacks are obviously not the best you can find. Their striking force isn't there yet. What are their chances?
United can't win the title. I don't see United winning the title. Credit to them for keeping Carrick. I think this is just a part of their transition to that team that can win the title. I mean, you just talked about the defense, the fullbacks. you look at that last game against Milan and you ask yourself if these are the guys they want to use to win the Premier League. It won't work. The defense is still not too good. Even the goalkeeping department, if that was the guy who replaced same guy who replaced Couture at the World Cup and looked like he wasn't prepared. I mean, it's a United goalkeeper. And coming in at that level, you expect that all United will have players who can come in at any time to play. And at the World Cup, if that's what he could deliver at the World Cup, what's he going to do in the Premier League? It means even in the goalkeeping department, they've still got issues. So if in the attacking, where United was United, the attack was a killer squad. I mean, you know when goals will come. You know goals will certainly come. Even at the time when Owen came as when he returned from Madrid, whenever Owen it was even introduced, he gets to score a goal. You know, so this squad is certainly not a squad that can win the title. Maybe it's still work in progress for Carrick in terms of squad talent, getting it right. They don't have a team that can win the title.
Rashford is back. Fresh energy.
It's part of the team that can win the title.
Well, I'm not really a Man U fan, but I have friends who I'm hoping Man U will not spoil their season. Because for me, last season, I stopped watching Chelsea in January, February. If I could do anything to Maresca to get him out of that place, but he's gone. Jide, Alonso is in Chelsea now. Luku appeared to have answered to my screams that youth program, that model isn't going to work. But how do you see the team now?
It's a more balanced side. Over the last 3 years, Chelsea has predominantly invested in youth, which I'm sure even they realized that was going to take time to grow. But the performance last season, where they finished 10th, I think has brought them back to earth to realize that you have to also be winning now, or at least be performing well now, if you want to actually be able to create a sustainable business. You know, Chelsea has all kinds of issues at the moment. You have to remember that over the last 3 years, they still not managed to find a front of shirt sponsor. That's still an outstanding issue they've not resolved. There is the issue of the stadium they've been talking about for quite a while. They've not finally arrived at any concrete decisions yet. Then in the course of this new week, we've heard that Boli and his partner are thinking of selling their shares to Clear Lake, led by Egbali, which would give Clear Lake complete control of Chelsea. So there are off-field issues that Chelsea has, which you like to hope will not affect the on-field play. But on the field, over pre-season, they've looked a much better side.
Yep.
We've not seen a Jordan Henderson, but from everything that we've heard about how Chelsea has played, how they've managed pre-season, it looks like the injection of Henderson and Welbeck has helped settle the team down. The younger ones have more confidence, knowing what they need to do, and have kind of shifted some of the pressure they had to the older ones. Because part of the problem Chelsea had was they had no leaders.
No.
The people who were supposed to be leaders, the Enzo and Reece James, were in themselves, they are still young people, really. And then you have an Enzo who is the vice captain, supposed to be a leader, who goes on air to say he wants to find another club and all of that. So, all of those affected the team. But it's looking from their playing preseason like they might finally be managing to gel. You like to think that Alonso has a difference he's going to make to that team. If you add the fact that they are not going to play in Europe next season and they only get to play one game per week most of the season, except when they have to play the Carling or FA Cup, everything bodes well for a good Chelsea run this season. Hopefully, the off-field issues don't affect them that much.
Okay. Let's look at the setting in Tottenham. De Zerbi is one coach, one respect. He didn't quite have it nice in Italy, But I've seen some preseason games, one against Chelsea, and looks like Tottenham will have a look in. What do you think?
Well, they have a World Cup winner, Pedro. I mean, that's part of the good news that will fans will look at too. I mean, at least something to add to bring back what he did at the World Cup. And so, but talking about Tottenham generally, I mean, last season is one they want to forget in a hurry. So hopefully, it's looking they're looking like something nice might happen from there. Not winning the title, I mean that won't work for them. Maybe trying to get into Europe, that might be what might just be the good thing for them. The icing on the cake, but overall, it's still going to be a difficult one for them. A few players still there. That picture of last season, of course, will remain in their heads, and that's something they want to take off their backs.
Okay. Jide, surprise packages for the season: Newcastle, Villa, Bournemouth, Plymouth, Crystal Palace, and Brighton. What do you make of those teams?
Yeah, so of all of those teams you just mentioned, you probably say Brighton, Bournemouth, look like, and Villa.
And Villa, yeah.
Are the three, based on even on the performances of this just concluded season, are the ones that might do well. You on the outside chance, maybe a Crystal Palace. I struggle to see how Newcastle fits into that list because Newcastle has all kinds of problems at the moment. All kinds of problems. They almost can't manage to buy anybody. The manager is gone. The person that was brought in has practically no experience anywhere. They are really struggling. So Newcastle might not be in that team, in that list. But all the others should do well. Bournemouth did exceedingly well last year. Lost a place in the top in Europe by whiskers, I think. So they should do well. Villa, clearly, if there's one team that will give the top six, or that should give the top six a run for their money, should be Villa. Over the last 3-4 years, they've done very, very well. Had a stint in the Champions League, almost qualified for the knockout stages, almost qualified for the quarterfinals, I think, and did very well. For the others, if they finish within the top 10, I'm sure they'll be satisfied.
Okay, OJ, your take on the dark horses?
I think I'll look at Bournemouth again. I mean, for all they've achieved. Again, for Villa, the coach is a huge factor there. You look at that performance again against PSG. It could have gone either way. So he's shown that. Whatever happened at Arsenal, past tense, but he's shown that with the kind of teams, like Sevilla, where he was coach, coming to Aston Villa. Now, in recent times, I think he's the one coach who has turned Villa, around, especially with what they have. He's turned them around, turned them into, the European champions. Trying to go back to what the era Villa, had some, was a formidable team. Somehow, not the best, but at least in the league. So they've got that confidence on the bench, and that is translating, on the pitch and continuing to work for them. So I think he's one factor, that will work for Villa. For Newcastle, did say the coaches don't know? I think he's done some things in Germany. He coached Red Bull. He left to Asia. Coming back from Asia, maybe, but then the fact that the Red Bull team seems to be one that, any coaches coming from that, especially the German coaches. In recent times too, there have been this influx of German coaches into the Premier League and even the Championship, English football generally, and some of them have done well. Some have moved out and back again. The Leeds guy. So
Daniel.
Overall, he could just it could be one surprise. It could be a surprise package.
All right, something will happen, and we look forward to the Premiership that has 8-9 teams that are going to be playing good football. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're looking at player movement. Some players who have moved, what their likely impact be and the teams they move to, and then the teams that lost these players?
Best of football.
Welcome back. We want to talk about the players who have moved, especially in EPL, and how we think they would impact on their new teams. Well, for me, I hope that before the week runs out, Chelsea has sold Enzo Maret. Is this
Fernandez.
Fernandez? Enzo is Enzo for me. I don't believe in keeping players who are not who have decided they're not
happy to stay.
Obviously, with Chelsea not being in Europe, a World Cup finalist, World Cup winner, he wants to be. But the way he went about it wasn't really nice. But for me, I think he should go. But OJ, who are the players who have moved and stood out in your opinion?
I think for Bruno coming into Arsenal, that's a big, that's a plus in terms of yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you look at the transfer fee, 75 million, and what he's going to bring into that midfield. I mean, we saw a bit of that during the Community Shield, and that shows the impact that again for Portuguese players too. It's an addition to it. It's an uplift from him from Newcastle to Arsenal. I mean, he could just be champion if Arsenal retain the title again. So I think that's a big plus for Arsenal. And again, we talked about Chelsea, earlier. That experience, that someone had criticized Alonso for doing that, but he knows what he wants. And if a coach decides he wants those two players, there are times it might just be for direction. I mean, players who needed to direct the players, and I think in that sense, I see that as two. Again, you look at what he's been able to achieve since moving to Brighton. Even Brighton had to thank him for doing so well for the club. So I think those transfers are transfers that will help the clubs.
Jide?
For me, the key transfers that I've taken note of are the losses from City, particularly the recent loss of Rodri. World Cup Golden Ball winner. That title alone tells you a lot about the quality the man has. And we've seen, if you've watched City over the last few years, you can tell that Rodri has been extremely instrumental in everything City has achieved. So it'll be interesting to see how they cope without Rodri for this new season. He's finally got his move to Barcelona. For Liverpool, they've lost quite a few people. Maybe not significant people. Konate, yes, a mainstay in their defense, but I think they have backup for that. Salah is not the same Salah we've known over the last few years, so maybe they might not miss him so much. But the fact that Liverpool hasn't done very well recently might not make any significant difference to the people they've lost. For Arsenal, they still look like the potential title winners, because the Arsenal has not lost anybody significant this season, and then they've strengthened even better. They made a move of Piero Incapi permanent. He played on loan last season. He's now a permanent Arsenal player. Then they brought in Bruno Guimaraes, who is not your typical Brazilian footballer, but he definitely adds value to that team. And then, like I said, they've kept everybody else. So, you can only see them get stronger than they even did last year. For Chelsea, I like the fact that they brought in those supposedly old people that they brought in, because everybody knew that Chelsea needed older heads in the dressing room. There were all kinds of issues, that went on in that Chelsea team. There was some indiscipline, and there was some. You could just tell that now you had a captain who almost never plays.
Yeah,
in Rhys James.
That
was a major issue why they felt they needed that, because Rhys James is probably the calmest head in that Chelsea team. but half of the time is on the treatment table. So then you now give, they now have to rely on an Enzo Fernandez, who is a very combustible footballer at the best of times. He's not somebody you really want to give that captainship band to in any team. So I think Welbeck and Henderson joining Chelsea would make significant impact. And then you also have to remember that Chelsea hasn't lost anybody that they don't want to lose. The only players they've lost are the ones they wanted to get out of the club. So they've retained the best players that they feel they need. And they brought quite a few people in.
Lacroix.
They brought Lacroix. Quenda finally joined this season. They brought Jackson back, and even though there's a strong likelihood Jackson will leave before the end of the season, but if they do decide to keep him in that club this season, he has shown over preseason that he's going to add a lot of value to that team. They brought in Morgan Rogers. Chelsea looks like a very, very strong team this season. It won't be a surprise if they do much better than everybody thinks they will do.
Well, they will need another goalkeeper. I have no faith in Robert Sanchez. He just gives me the creeps. When I'm watching Chelsea play, I'm just hoping that the opposite don't go near the box. Yeah. Okay. Tillemans joined United. We still think United need a couple of fullbacks. The central defense isn't quite the same.
Yeah.
You see any improvement before the season really takes off?
I don't see. Again, I was just looking at players who came in for United, and it looked like Carrick is preparing for. It's like when you're bringing, as we say in Nigeria, feeder team players. You're bringing players that don't look like will really add. I mean, look at those who have come in. The young guy from South America, Ecuador, the guy who has come in, Santos. Then you really look at and you look at the defects in the team, and you ask yourself, has it brought in the right people to take care of this, or is it that they're not ready for the right solution to the problems? I mean, I don't think Luke Shaw still belongs to that team. Fullbacks, central defense. It looked like Maguire will have to do a lot, and in doing a lot, I hope he doesn't get cards. In trying to do all of that, in wanting to go and look for goals, I hope the defense is not. So you look at United and you still see issues. Attacking wise, Ahmad seems to be the only creative guy who can do the unexpected in the team. So Kunha, it's still a difficult. The team is still not organized. So I don't want to be Carrick. Fine, he was able to move the team up, but then in trying to get better, I don't think they have the personnel to do that. I mean, those who have come, and those who are still there. I mean, Bruno still just looks like that's what they're doing everything possible to keep Bruno. I mean, if you lose the captain of the team, it clearly shows that you don't even know what you're trying to do. So of all the group there, Ahmad and Bruno, who else would? I mean, how would they win? How would they beat Arsenal and how would they get to the top when you can see that the team is not?
It's not what
it should be to compete.
Okay. Well, let's quickly look at Europe because we don't have too much time on our hands. Let's start with La Liga. Jose Mourinho back in Real Madrid. Barcelona, on the strength of last season, is still the number one team to beat. What are your expectations of La Liga?
For me, as always, it will be a two-horse race. Real Madrid, Barcelona. I have a feeling that Barcelona might just edge it because they are a more settled side. And then they've added Rodri to that team. They've lost Ferran Torres, but he wasn't even a starter in the team anyways, so it was not anything significant for them. And they still have a Yamal, still have a Pedri, still have all the... Well, okay, they also lost Lewandowski as well, but... They look more settled. They will start the season as slight favorites. But Jose Mourinho is Jose Mourinho. Real Madrid have spent quite a bit of money this summer with brought in Konate, brought in Bernardo Silva. they are still looking to buy a few people, even though the president says they are not buying anybody else except any major opportunities coming. But I see Barcelona start as slight favorites, and then maybe Real Madrid to push them all the way.
Barcelona favorites?
Yes. I mean, like Jide said, they look like a house more settled. Madrid looks like a house under construction, but then that construction might be. It depends on how fast Mourinho is able to do what he's doing. Of course, it will always be. They will always give. It's a two-horse race again, as always. I mean, you look at Atletico and Co. Do they have that quality to change it? No. But for Mourinho, again, La Liga will be happy first of all that Mourinho is there. I mean, that again has moved some eyeballs, the attention there, because a lot of people follow Mourinho. So the fact that he's gone to La Liga now means that the La Liga brand has moved up a bit, more attention there because of Mourinho. So depending on how soon he's able to put his house, construct that building, he might just get his first title. But I think overall, either the league, the Copa del Rey, one of them will go to Madrid, but of course they will prefer the league.
Okay. Jide, Bundesliga, Dortmund, Leipzig, Stuttgart, Hoffenheim, Leverkusen. Can any of them stop Bayern?
I don't think so. Dortmund has been the closest over the last 5-10 years. Last season, he finished Bayern, Dortmund, Leipzig. Bayern, Dortmund, Stuttgart, Hoffenheim. Leipzig finished outside the top 4. This season, I really don't see how it's going to change. Bayern is heads and shoulders better ahead of all of these other teams. And typically what Bayern does is Bayern usually wins the league 5-6 games before the end of the season. And then they lose 4 or 5 of their last 6 games, but they've already won the league by the time anyways. It'll be a struggle to see who's going to catch them, because overall the quality in the Bundesliga is concentrated mainly in 1.5 teams, the half being Dortmund. The main team there is Bayern. You don't really see where anybody is going to stop the status quo.
Nobody can stop Bayern.
Well, obviously. But the thing I like about the Bundesliga too is the fact that every team gets that full attendance is impressive. Whether it's the team at the bottom or the team or Bayern, they pride themselves with the fact that the league is washed by Germans. Tickets are easy to be purchased, and like they say, my ticket is like a price of a burger. So it's easy for everyone to access Bundesliga games. If you want your league to be easily accessed, you need that. I mean, and that is what makes the Bundesliga special. Even though we all know there's going to be Bayern every season, it still has its exciting part. And for me, so the fact that Schalke is back too, it's interesting to me. They were relegated, now they were back. They were among those teams that were always disturbing Bayern. Yeah. And the fact that an old man, Dzeko, chose to go there, helped them to come back too. Even got offers, but he preferred to remain with Schalke and play with them. So that, again, it's one that's exciting for me. And part of the reasons why the Bundesliga too remains one of the leagues that a lot of people like to watch, despite the fact that it is Bayern every year.
Yeah, so just to say, one of the things that keeps the Bundesliga competitive is that it's the only league in Europe where the clubs are owned by the fans. Bundesliga has refused to allow foreign ownership of any club. So majority ownership in all the Bundesliga clubs are fan-owned. So that still keeps them competitive. It's just that history always favors the ones that came out earlier, but it still maintains the integrity of the league.
Okay, straight to La Liga. Yeah. Como got one promotion and
Serie A.
Serie A. Yeah. Como won promotion, and their coach is one of the most liked players and coach in the world, I dare to say.
Yeah, in the world.
But, do they have the strength to compete with Inter Milan, Roma, and possibly Juve?
They do. The issue they had last season was the same issue Chelsea had. They had too many young people. Over the course of a 38-game season, the youth would fade. And then when they needed the experience, they didn't have it. But Como is a fantastic team. If you watch Como every week, you will marvel at the quality of that team. Fantastic team. For a team like Como, they had a player in the Argentine World Cup squad, even though he didn't get to play very much, And then they have a coach who is a fantastic man manager. Seems to be able to get the best out of anybody that plays in that team. So Como will definitely do well. They finished in the top 4 last season. They are playing the Europa Champions League this season. They will do well. You just hope that, because you have to remember that last season he finished Inter, Napoli, Milan. Even Juve dropped. Como finished 4th. So if a Juve comes back into the fold, you like to hope that it's not a Como that will drop. But, for so far, they've done very well. Over the last 2 seasons, they've been one of the better teams in the Serie A.
Oje, won't adding the weight of Europe affect Como?
No, I don't think so. I think gradually they've been able to understand what it is to compete in Serie A. It's their first time in Europe. But then you look at the Como project compared to others who come in, they'll come and go. But Como appears on and off the pitch. On the pitch, off the pitch, they've been able to sell a beautiful story about their location, just by the sea. And that's as they've sold it as a culture, and that is even helping their branding. So then you add the football part of it. They're playing good football. They've got a good coach, a likable coach who has played for a team like Arsenal, and not just carrying that Arsenal
And Chelsea.
And Chelsea and Barcelona. But they've got a coach who other bigger teams are even trying to take away from Como. Yeah. But he believes in the Como project. I mean, he's part of it, which is why he accepted that. So he's it's difficult to get him out. One day, of course, he will leave. But then the project for now, for me, I think they're still getting to get 1 or 2 players in. Even in Europe, I mean, they don't expect to win in Europe anyway. I mean, win the title, but then the experience will help them.
Inter 2-3 seasons ago, they were, a delight to watch, were threats to anybody, but it doesn't look like they're quite the same side.
They are not the same side. They lost something. And it started in that Champions League final that they got embarrassed by PSG. But they definitely have lost something. But regardless of what they've lost, they are still the best side in Italy at the moment. There are a lot of big teams in Europe that are not quite in Italy that are not quite pulling their weight at the moment. So you still kind of see an Inter winning the league again this year.
Okay, we'll take the last break for this episode. When we come back, we'll round up with a review of the WAFCON finals.
Best of football.
Welcome back. We are still on the best of football, and we're wrapping the program this week. Madugu is gone, we're told. They quite rightly so, but should he be the scapegoat?
No, it shouldn't be the scapegoat. Shouldn't be the scapegoat. Some persons in the federation did not help him to prepare well. He didn't help himself too. Yeah. With comments he made. That's one problem. That's one problem for me for most Nigerian coaches. You take, you go with a in a wrong mental state to the pre-match meeting and post-match, and you start talking about suing everybody. I don't know who's going to sue now. Now that everything has ended this way. But I think Madugu is not the only one. The FA shouldn't hide under pushing Madugu out. They can be honorable too by resigning.
Well, we'll come to that sometime. Jide, Cameroon, new African champions, and they had this goalkeeper who played like it was 3 women.
Michele Bihina, Benfica's goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Well, overall, you probably would say Cameroon were deserved winners, even though I would say they were not the best team in that competition, but they won. You have to remember that Cameroon struggled against Nigeria in that game. We completely dominated that game. We just couldn't score. If we had scored, we probably will have a different conversation. But as of today, they are the African champions, and they've been looking for this for a long time. You know, they are one of the earliest pace setters in women football. That they've not even won this long is strange. But congratulations to Cameroon. We hope they represent Africa well in the World Cup.
Well,
let's see whether they represent Africa well. Congratulations to Cameroon. I mean, they've won it. We've been beating them all the time, even when they hosted.
Yeah.
And so I thought Malawi would have, but then perhaps Malawi had burnt all the energy getting to that final. Playing against a physical Cameroonian side would have been difficult for them. With that goalkeeper that she doesn't want to concede goals. I thought should have been player of the tournament too. I wonder how CAF, even the teammate was shocked. If you look at the videos again, when she was mentioned as player, she was like, me? But then, congrats to Cameroon.
yeah, I think they deserve to win, like Jide said. They may not have been the best team, but hey, when it mattered most.
They've delivered, yeah.
They delivered.
All right, that's where we will draw the curtain on this week's edition of the Best of Football from Jide.
Yes, it was nice being here. The Premier League starts this weekend. We hope to see the best of football.
OJ.
Let's see what happens to the Premier League weekend.
Well, our cameraman was asking, what do we think about Man U this season? Well, I'll let it just happen. Let Man U answer his question. That will be the program for us this week. Stay with us for more next week.
Best of football.